Good morning to you. Welcome to Business Lens on Rapid TV. And I hope that you had a pleasant weekend. Well, it's time to get into the stories and the headlines making the rounds when you talk about business, finance, and the economy, of course. My name is Faith Dafa Joseph, and let's talk about some of the headlines to expect for today's show. We're talking about the CBN releasing some funds, well, Forex, for the importation of fuel, right? And how much, of course, that is eating into our reserve, although our reserve is growing. So maybe it is not that much of an alarm. And then let's talk about Dangote Refinery. Very, very ambitious project going on there, because now it's going to be expanded from 650,000 barrels per day to over 1 million, I think 1.4 million barrels per day. That is huge. Okay, it's going to make it the world's largest refinery. It's pretty ambitious. And then we'll talk about Nigeria's debt obligations as well. So all of these are things to expect on the show. And per usual, I do not get to do it by myself. I have my analyst here, Mr. Abiola, economist from Key to Markets. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Faith. Good to be here.
Okay, hope you had a great weekend.
Well,
you don't know. Okay, I'm not going to probe.
Yeah, okay,
let's talk about CBN very quickly. There's this report talking about the CBN pumping about $1.25 billion into fuel imports and others. We've already talked about established that Nigeria is quite import dependent. So what it means is that when we're talking about shoring up our reserves, or that's our foreign external reserves, we're looking at the fact that we might need to use these reserves, not just to shore up the Naira or defend Naira, but also when it comes to making sure that we're able to pay for imports. But one of the things that we also have realized, it was in the news years back, that fuel imports actually take a chunk of our forex, right? And even though we now have locally produced or locally refined petroleum products, we still have marketers, being able to import, and it is because it is a free market. But when you're looking at this amount of money being released, here it says Central Bank released a total of $1.259 billion to oil sector players for the importation of petroleum products. So if you're looking at that, and that's for the first 3 months of 2025, you look at it and say, do we still need to do this? But when you also look at the fact that it's a deregulated market and people should be able to source for their products anywhere, you also don't want to argue for that. But then you're also looking at the fact that we're trying to save forex, but we're still spending so much when it comes to importation of fuel.
Now, the first question I wanted to ask you, that why is the CBN paying for importation of fuel? Because do you mean that they went to buy dollars from the CBN, or CBN is funding it and getting their money back? We need much more insight into that, but I think I know what it is. At the end of the day, we need to step back, not a little bit, a whole lot on this, because first of all, we have an internal big refinery, first of all. Secondly, we still have modular refineries. Thirdly, we have deregulation, more or less, which means that everybody should be able to source their funds and bring it. Because what this does is that while on one hand, you're trying to stabilize the dollar to the Naira, which you've been doing a fantastic job, on the other side, you yourself are now bringing up pressures, on the exchange rate again, by actually releasing a whole lot of funds, I think billions, 1 point something billion of dollars to import petroleum, which to a very large extent is meant to be a deregulated sector, meaning that marketers should be able to source for their funds and bring in this.
So because this is also surprising, because when you say it like that, because this particular report was talking about a quarterly statistical bulletin from the CBN that now showed that a total of $1.26 billion was released for import transactions. The chunk of it went to oil. But basically, if we have this window where everybody can just purchase Forex, so why can't they just purchase it?
So this is what we need to now start investigating and checking, that why does the CBN still needs to release funds directly for importation of petroleum products. There are so many ways and there are so many windows in which the CBN has actually opened up for people to source for dollars. And why I like this is because it removes pressure, first of all, from our external reserves. Number two, it opens up the market, okay, to competition. Okay, I was able to get my dollars for 1,450. You got your own for 1,435. At the end of the day, let all the players play. That is the whole idea of having a field. Okay, in the first place, let them play. Because if you're doing this, okay, are we also saying that Dangote will also have some access also? Because it's also more or less in the field, in the sector. So at the end of the day, we need to dial it back. Exactly. That's the conclusion.
Because if you're deregulating the oil market and saying that anybody can source for their products and sell anywhere.
On the other hand,
so why not? And you know, your forex also have been liberalized in the market. So
yes, there's meant to be FX everywhere. You can approach your banks. You can approach bureau de change. You can approach even that. See, to a very large extent, we have companies that want to bring in large chunks of USD into the country for maybe purchases. On the other hand, we have marketers that are looking for those large chunks of, USDs to also do their own thing. So there is actually an opportunity for them to find a way to always swap and get inflows on their own and, push their products into the country. Because I would always like, let me say, the Lagos situation. Because it's something we usually discuss. That if you look at the Lagos economy, for example, is a competitive economy. Is not really dependent on government, not dependent on anything. If you look at the Abuja economy, is more or less a government-dependent economy. So I always like the Lagos economy because there are always opportunities for business. And that is what happens when you allow everybody to go and source for their thing. If that means that the price of PMS will first of all go up, no problem. But eventually, it will be better for the country.
It will level up eventually.
It will level up and come down eventually because now everybody is doing their thing. Everybody is looking for their products. Everybody is looking for dollars. And by so doing, they also will find opportunities where they've not really looked before. Instead of always looking for or looking up to the CBN to provide USD
for them. I mean, I don't care if at the end of the day there's an exchange of naira to dollar. The CBN should not be part of that transaction. They should just let people, do what they need to do. Okay, so let's now talk about the Dangote refinery. Very interesting story. When I saw it, I was like, well, he's quite ambitious.
Dangote should stay out of our headlines. He's always in our headlines. He's always in our headlines.
I don't know if you can blame me for this because look at this. First, the fact that it's 650,000 barrels per day makes the Dangote refinery already one of the largest refineries in the world and the largest in Africa. And then now they're starting on another construction, still in that same spot, to now expand to 1.4 million barrels per day. That is not even times two. That's more than times two of what they're doing right now. So what this report is saying is that this will make the Dangote refinery the largest refinery in the world.
Yeah,
this is a feat.
It's a feat, really. It's a new wonder of the world, whether you like it or not. Because, why I'm especially happy is because we need good news to keep putting Nigeria on the map. We want to reduce the bad news coming out of Nigeria, and this is not just a good news; it's an incredible news because 1.4 million barrels per day, you're practically swallowing up all our quota. Like practically, you're swallowing up the whole quota. That means that Nigeria has to now start running to be able to pump more out because there's a guy indoor that is guzzling up, is about to guzzle up everything. So it's a good and a fantastic one by Dangote, always going overboard. And I think it's also a very good one for the country because I can't even begin to list out the things that can actually come from this. It's a whole lot. 1.4 is a whole lot.
I mean, let's talk about the fact that, when the refinery had not even been able to get to 650,000 barrels, capacity, there was already a lot of reports about refineries in Europe shutting down because now they didn't have as much customers anymore, right?
Yes.
Not just us, but even some African countries. And we know that Dangote refinery is already exporting, whether it's to the United States and to a number of other countries. So what this also now means is that this is not just an avenue for the Dangote refinery. Like you said, it is huge on different levels. First, for a country that never had refineries, for decades to all of a sudden house the largest refinery in the world. It is the biggest feat. I would even say maybe it is time for the NNPC to expand their stakes, you know, go all out and maybe just invest a bit more.
Because,
you know,
guys
go for the
doing
20%.
something right.
Exactly.
Because if he's doing 650, he was able to meet up with full production capacity. And not long after that, he's announcing that he wants to more than double. Then it shows that he's doing something right. And he's not backing down. And he's going all the way. So it's going to be, apart from being a profitable venture, a very big venture, which, like you said, the NNPC can increase their stake if there's an opportunity to do that. And I know that very soon also it's possible, okay, for Dangote refineries to come out and say, okay, they want to start selling.
Oh, no, next year. Next year,
so there's a whole lot.
Next year, Dangote refineries has declared that they are going to be listed on the NGX next year. So they're
I'm
going
waiting
to be...
because I'm personally going to buy into it. Yeah.
Yes.
So we are all happy that something good is happening. Much more than that, I'm sure that in the coming weeks, we'll soon also look at the effects that this is going to have on the economy of Nigeria, because having 1.4 million barrels per day is not a joke. And also, we're going to see the effect on Africa. They will now start talking about the Western world, because it's going to affect them.
Oh, yes.
The ordinary 650 is not ordinary anyway, but the 650,000 barrels per day is already causing a whole lot of business to dry up. So 1.4 is going to be also more. So he has to also be prepared, which I know he is, for some level of resistance.
There's going to be quite a bit of pushback.
There's going to be some resistance from some areas. And if we get it right, okay, this can also be an input, okay, for us to be able to get our quota really, really increased, okay, by OPEC, so that we're sure that to a very large extent, even though I know Dangote will also source for crude oil from other places, but to a large extent, Nigeria can, be supplying him majority of whatever is.
So this can be an argument for the OPEC meeting.
Yes, it can be an argument. That's what I'm saying.
If we have
a refinery
doing this, we need to have a lot more of our production. But it also just shows that maybe Nigeria can start, which was why I talked about NNPC increasing its stake to the original 20% that it was supposed to get from the Dangote refinery in the first place. Because what it also means is that you have an avenue to not just get forex from selling crude, but by actually also selling refined products. You understand what I mean?
No, don't talk about refined products majorly. And there are more than 15 refined products that can come from refining crude oil. There's so much of them. We have petroleum jelly, we still have kerosene, we have jet fuel, we have diesel, we have a whole lot. So apart from the fact that we're always fixated on PMS, on the crude oil itself, the refined petroleum products can also be a whole source of secondary income, okay, to a whole lot of manufacturing industries in Nigeria, because they are actually inputs to other manufacturing companies.
One of the things they mentioned was that they were going to be able to expand the production of polypropylene, which is good for plastic production, things like that,
rubber,
and base oils as well, and another thing which is a key material or key ingredient for detergents, and there's so much more that can be gotten out of this. That's why I'm saying that this is an opportunity to also expand Nigeria's industrial base, expand your forex, how you get your forex, and also just basically put Nigeria on the map. If you have such a huge industry and it is working, then you're signaling to other investors, even foreign investors, that hey, you can come and cite your business.
Yes, because we have the raw materials now for you.
Yes.
So if by any reason we can actually fix power, it's going to be a very big boost to us having an industrial complex, okay, sourcing raw materials, okay, from Dangote products, because now, like you said, we can invite companies, apart from even indigenous companies, say, come to the free trade zone, you have your raw materials here, and you can easily get it, you can cheaply get it. Then for indigenous companies already in Nigeria importing such materials, you can make more profits. There's a profit margin, okay, instead of you importing, it's now here in Nigeria. So like I said, there's a whole lot of discussions that is going to come from this Dangote refinery increase in production. So
looking at this now, let's look back to the headline for last week,
okay,
where you had the House of Reps saying that you have to protect, the Dangote refinery's national assets.
Yes.
With this development, would you say they're wrong to say that, hey, they're saying unions, please don't spoil this for us? This is too good a thing.
Maybe they had insider trading knowledge. They knew before us that he was going to announce all this. So they are, oh, let's protect this guy. This guy is going to announce something big. But looking at the past headline, I would still say everybody should be given fair hearing and should be treated fairly. There should be objectivity when it comes to the House of Assembly. The headline still looks biased, okay, but at the end of the day, when you are big, you are big. You know, yeah, because that's the way the world works. You expect some level, you know, of bias. That is why when you see top, you know, politicians, big guys, billionaires having a court trial, it usually looks different from where there is somebody that nobody knows having a court trial, because there's always this bias because of the size of the person involved.
There is a lot at stake. You know, it's not just about the person. One of the things that, you know, was announced with this is that when they start this construction to expand the refinery to over about 1.4 million barrels per day, is going to create about 65,000 other jobs during the construction phase alone, and also, of course, open the road for local industries as well. So when there are people who say, well, let's call this a national asset, you know, it's not far from the truth if you're looking at the scale of it. It is huge. But then there's also the fear that when you have a refinery that is 1.4 million barrels per day, what you also have is that all the other smaller refineries will be swallowed up, because if you're producing $100,000 barrels per day, is like, okay,
100,000 is even a lot.
No, or like you're producing like 25,000 barrels per day.
I think your market will still be there, but you might be a little bit affected, you know. But the thing now is this. Now, if I have a modular refinery somewhere in the south, okay, deep into the south, and I'm producing 25,000, 50,000 per day, first of all, I already have my loyal customers. Secondly, I cannot compete.
So it should not be about competing.
So you can't compete against who? How do you want to compete? Let me not use analogies, but you cannot compete. So now what you need to do is to strengthen the relationship ties. Like I tell people when I do some little seminars, I tell them that the reason why people patronize you goes beyond the cost of your service. At that level, there are more interpersonal relationships than at Dangote level. Dangote level is just everybody, you know, but at that level they already know. So, you know, they buy from us again, you know, there's this relationship, and there's a lot I'm sure they can also offer their customers. So it's also a way for them to also be competitive. Maybe they're charging X before, now they'll charge X minus 2. They have to also now give some level of subsidies, but let's see what it will be. We don't really know what it will be until it happens.
I mean, we don't know when this will happen. The construction is going to start soon, according to Dangote. But I mean, we will see how it proceeds. One of the things that he's always been harping on is that, you know, there's been plans to sabotage him from the inside, which was why he fired the people that he fired. And so what it is also going to call for is more support from the government, because that's what he was asking for. He was thanking the government for the support that he had gotten, but he's asking for more support, especially to prevent against sabotage and things like that. And I mean, let's be real, when you have a scale like this, you're going to have different kind of saboteurs, whether they're foreign or they're local. Yeah. There are going to always be people that want to.
Definitely, but my advice is, we as Nigerians also have a part to play. And that was what I was trying to explain when we had that discussion about Pengasin and all that. I was trying to tell Daniel that there are some things that if you want to follow it strictly by theory, you will end up harming yourself. We need to find a way to make this work, because eventually it would blow back positively on all of us. Now, what I mean is this. If, for any reasons, we see that Nigerians cannot actually work in Dangote refineries at very good positions, meaning that they keep self-sabotaging themselves, then Dangote refinery might be forced at some point to import labor, which is not good for us. I'm telling you, something like this happened in a city in southern Nigeria. I don't mention the city. They had a lot of oil servicing companies there that always bring businesses. They built their places, they rented, and the indigents there kept sabotaging these businesses, stealing their welding machine, underwater welding machine, all manner of things. If you go to that city today, what you will find there are millions of keke, because all those companies, they pulled out at the end of the day and they left to somewhere else. So at some point in time, we need to start having very difficult conversations with ourselves that, okay, whether you like him, you don't like him, let's make this work. because at the end of the day, it is positive.
It's
But if we
beneficial for
sabotage
everybody.
it and make sure it does not work, at the end of the day, it will affect us more than him.
Exactly. I
He,
mean,
he would not
he's
stop
already
being a billionaire. He will never stop being a billionaire. So at the end of the day, who loses?
All right, now let's move on from that and talk about Nigeria's debt profile. According to this particular report, Nigeria's current debt profile overshot government's projection by a staggering 1.63 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2024. That's, according to the budget office, the total recurrent debt stood at 3.69 trillion naira. That was an increase of 1.63 trillion, or 78% above the 2.07 trillion projected for that quarter. Right, and then if you now look at what is happening even in 2025, you can see that our debt is growing even more. And there's always been that, I think it was a World Bank that released a report talking about how this wasn't sustainable. And, Nigeria and Africa should look more at conventional financing than just going on to, taking, debts at any level. We know that there's a lot more debt that is, being shot up right now. But what is also meant is that you have a lot more when you look at debt servicing, as well. So that would also eat into your finances. You do not have enough for capital, expenditure. You do not have enough for social expenditure. Basically, you're just spending money to service debts. So you're making money to service debts. Your revenue is actually not enough to service your debts. So that is a problem, right? So what we're looking at here is that Nigeria's recurrent debts, there's a strain on government's fiscal revenue, because we do not have enough money to continue servicing our debts and also to do the things that we need to do. That means government needs to have a tighter debts and expenditure management. But every time we talk about it, it's like, oh no, we're doing good. Our debts to GDP ratio is low. We're okay.
Faith, I wanted to ask that, as our government ever cut the cost of running governance in the past 15 years? The answer is no.
It goes up.
It always goes up. So it's like talking to a wall sometimes, because we are all seeing what is going on. There was a time we're in a debt cycle, and whatever we get, whatever we take as loans, we use them to service what we owe, and there's practically nothing left. That we are even in deficit, then we need to pick up another loan, and we'll keep doing that, and it's not sustainable. So as it is now, what we need to do is to stop. I know it's easier said than done, but we just need to stop. And start looking inward. First of all, we look at government spending. Where does majority of these funds go to? Do they go to capital projects? Your guess is as good as mine. Or do they go to recurrent expenditures? If you go to recurrent expenditures more, it means that we cannot be taking loans to keep paying salaries. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't sound right. We as a sovereign nation should be able to produce enough to at least pay our staff. If you cannot pay staff, then what's the point of that staff being there?
Let's talk
that
about
means we are not
recurrent.
productive enough.
Let me give you the figures.
Okay.
So in 2024, there was a budget of 4.79 trillion naira for personnel costs. And that is to cover ministries, departments, and agencies in 2024 fiscal year. So that means that quarterly, 1.2 trillion was expended,
for salaries,
just for salaries.
Yeah.
Basically, that was
Where's the
was
Ransom
it.
report?
And then,
We'll keep referring back to it, because that's one of the ways that we could have cut government expenditures. How can you have more than 400 agencies,
the Ransom
ministries,
report
and
is lost
parastatals?
in translation.
Maybe we'll have to dust it. I hope there's a soft copy. Because if we want to be serious about debt, we need to be serious about expenditure. Okay, imagine that Rapid TV keeps borrowing to pay salaries. At some point, the management will sit together and say, guys, if this business cannot sustain itself, then what is the point of the business? Or if it's going to sustain itself in so years, no problem, we can keep borrowing for now, but are we working towards that? Yes. Yeah. So Nigeria at some point have to look at themselves and say, where is this projection leading us? In the next 30 years, going at this trajectory, are we going to be debt-free? or are we going to be enslaved to people that are borrowing us money? Another thing is, if this money is being borrowed and used for capital projects that we know one way or the other can give back,
and expand the economy,
then it's not a bad idea. But you cannot borrow money to pay salaries consistently. Once in a while, no problem. But consistently borrowing money to pay salaries.
So you're paying salaries, you are servicing debts. Because if you even look at what, you know,
you're not repaying debt, you are servicing it, so that we are clear.
Let's look at what the DMO released just recently, talking about Nigeria's total domestic debts reaching 1.707 trillion in the second quarter of 2025 alone. Okay, and then the data also showed us that Nigeria spent 1.686 trillion naira on debt servicing, that's interest payment, across multiple debt instruments, you know, and about 20.14 billion naira on principal repayments. So look at all of the monies that Nigeria spent in just that period for debt alone. So whether you're talking about debt servicing or you're talking about principal payments, look at all the monies that is being spent just to take care of debts. And then you now look at how much we're making in revenue. And like, okay, so when are we going to get out of
it? Yeah, where do you get out of it? And my own personal conviction is this. Nigeria has a whole lot of potential. And what we need the government to do is to start looking inward. Now, we've looked inward in terms of oil. We are doing a whole lot there, sincerely. The government is doing a whole lot. The country is doing a whole lot. There are other things that we can actually get, okay, from Nigeria that will boost our earnings. Solid minerals are there. Human resource exports are there, a whole lot. There are things that we can actually look into that not immediately, but in the next 3, 4, 5 years can actually be a very close second to oil exports. But instead of looking at this and really critically going deeper into it, we tend to want to go for the easiest option, which is just give me money. We're not even talking about agric, because there's a whole lot of gold mine there in the agricultural sector. I was in a meeting yesterday talking with some guys, and someone was telling me that he has access to 1,000 acres of cleared, irrigated land, blah, 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 but that they're looking for people with capacity to be able to, and I'm like, there are opportunities that abound in all these things. Federal government cannot do everything. But there should be an economic team that has a blueprint, a master plan, that this is what we are going to do in 10 years, in 5 years, in 2 years. And such plan should not be based on the current administration, meaning that any administration that comes or goes, they must follow that master plan. Everybody must sign it and say, this is the master plan for now.
I think that was one of the things that the DG, for the WTO was talking about then when she came in. That's Dr. Ngozi Kodewela talking about the fact that Nigeria does not have this plan that everybody just follows, no matter what, every administration, an economic plan that everybody just
kind of follows. That's why in the Western countries, they don't care. Whosoever is in power, doesn't matter. But for the sake of everybody, this is our master plan. Anything extra I want to do is fine. But you see, this master plan, it will continue, irrespective of who is there. We need that. And people need to know about it, that, oh, Nigeria in the next 10 years, this is what we should be exporting in terms of agriculture, in terms of solid minerals, in terms of oil. Everything should be open. So that when you have that document, it's an easy guide for both the citizens and even the government that is coming. So that if another government that comes is saying is going like this, people will remind them and say, see, oh, this is what we all agreed on. Can we please go back on, on schedule? So I think we really need that. I'm sure we have it in some form, but we need it much more robust and decentralized. Let everybody have access to it, so that we also, in our own little way, can assist the government in reaching that goal, because they can't reach the goal without us. If they come and say, oh, they want to do my road, let's say anywhere I'm living, and government says we have approved that construction, and they tell us the indigenous of that place, we will sit down there and make sure that the contractors actually do the work. But if we don't know, then at the end of the day, just somebody come and just do half of the road, we'll clap for him because we were not even expecting anything.
Which is where we are. Anyway, speaking about that halfway through, we'll go for a very quick break. When we return, we have a couple more headlines to touch base on before the show is over. So stick around, stay with Rapid TV. All right, it's still Business Lens here on Rapid TV, and like I said, we have a few more headlines to go before I wrap up. One of those headlines is talking about Well, this report that we saw on Business Day, where you have Afreximbank talking about international banks withdrawing from Africa, and the reason, according to them, is that these international banks consider doing business on African soil too risky and not sufficiently profitable. So it means that on a scale of profitability and risk, you know, the risk outweighs the profitability, and they're like, no, there's no need to keep doing business here. And one of the things that they mentioned, Zabela, let me come to you, is talking about compliance mostly. For people in media, we already know what compliance means. What it means is that there should be some transparency and traceability for whatever it is that you're doing. And the level of compliance in African countries has not really been to that level where you can trace where money is coming from, where money is going to, how it is moving. If you look at the porosity, when you talk about even tracing financial transactions, even in Nigeria, it is quite porous. And this is not a risk that multinational banks want to take. And so they kind of like decide that, well, this is not worth the trouble, and so they decide that they're not going to keep doing this. So compliance, according to them, is both the entrance and exit door of an organization. So if you are not able to, you know, make sure that you are setting compliance in your day-to-day transactions, then it's very hard for international businesses that want to do business with you to stay. They're talking about a number of banks that are leaving Africa, HSB, Barclays, they're leaving. Whether it's Ghana or South Africa, they're leaving. I mean, they left Nigeria. But, you know, we have this issue where we have this lack of transparency for every transaction. So, of course, they're saying that they're trying to promote that to make sure that there is compliance, there's transparency, and you can trace every financial transaction. This shouldn't be that difficult in 2025, should it?
Exactly. 2025 is the problem. Because we shouldn't be in 2025 and be having issues with tracing, you know. I see a lot of my friends, okay, or my family that are outside the country, and there's this confidence they have in the financial sector there that if for some reasons they get involved in a shady transaction, that maybe somebody scammed them or duped them, they are confident that they can always get their money back, because all they have to do is to cancel the transaction, and wherever that transaction is must be reversed back to them. Another thing is, if you buy a product and it's not the way it was advertised, you can say, oh, I don't want this product anymore, and they can cancel it and refund your funds. But you see this particular compliance thing in Nigeria or in Africa, it becomes rocket science, okay, because I'm speaking to you personally now. I have a transaction that has been pending since May this year in a Nigerian bank, for example. Now, I paid into the wrong person's account. It was my fault. Immediately, I alerted the bank that, sorry, I paid 100 and something thousand into this account. It was a wrong account, but the names look similar. Please reverse it back to me. After lodging the complaint, they replied to me that, oh, this person has spent XYZ inside this, is remaining something thousand and no problem. I said, okay, reverse it. They said I should get a court order, get this. I did all that. And they said they put a lien on the person's account. Faith, till now, this is my own personal transfer. Till now, I've not gotten it. Till now, I've not gotten my money. So if you see instances like this, I can show that you can multiply them by millions across Africa.
We have seen reports of people just waking up and saying that their bank accounts were cleared.
Yeah.
And the banks were saying, well, there's nothing we can do about it.
There's nothing we can do about it. And you'll
like,
find out that
I don't understand.
sometimes nowadays there are now allegations, okay, by people that they also feel that there are internal collaborations. So with all of this, do you think an international company will want to stake their reputation by not being able to always defend their clients or customers? This is where we are currently, and that is one of the reasons why these guys are saying we cannot continue to be here. Another thing is the onboarding criteria. Okay, now in Nigeria, the one I know of, it is possible to open some kind of bank account that you don't have to do full verification.
There's no KYC.
There's no full KYC. Another thing is you can actually do this in somebody else's name. So if you look at this, it's dangerous. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's already a loophole. it's already a leakage in the system. So this might be part of the reasons why they are saying, guys, we need to leave this place, because in 2025 there should be a standard that let me spend anyhow I want to. I have this confidence in the financial sector that if for any reason I did the wrong transaction, somebody tried to scam me, I bought the wrong product, my money can always come back to me. Not that you tell me we don't know where the money went. How?
Oh, you tell me to write a letter and then I followed up the letter for 5 months and I don't get anything out of it. Sorry.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, so just to wrap up on a lighter note, on a good note, there's a report about food prices crashing across Abuja, especially over 65%. I don't know if you have gone to the market, if that has happened to you. But I would say this.
Which
I mean,
market?
I went to actually get a bag of rice, and I was very, very stunned that it was local rice, but it was
How much?
it was about 65,000
Ah,
for
that's
50
good.
kg.
That's good.
I was
The
stunned.
stoned?
No, yeah, it was the stoned. It was
Good.
really, really clean
Yeah,
rice.
so we should push this out
You
more.
know, it was 65,000. I was stunned. I mean, because I went there, I was like, look, what I was prepared to pay
Yes,
was
tamarind.
different, you know. And when they told me, I was like, wait, how much did you say it is? I was like, are you sure? Don't worry, I'll take the 50 kg. It's fine.
No, so that means that's actually very good news. The one I usually buy is the one that is more than 50 kg. It's quite bigger, and the last time I bought it was 120, but it's big. It's like maybe 2 bags or like 1.5 or
So that's
something.
like,
So it's very big also. So it's good news if the
If this
price
has been
of things,
distributed
yeah,
across
it
the
should
country.
be across.
But I guess it's about, I mean, it's really grains. Talking
Yeah.
about the fact that it's harvest season, so maybe that is
Okay,
also,
what about perishables?
you know, well, I think that also is
Yeah,
there.
potato,
but
for
storage
example,
is a problem.
Irish is down also. At least I heard reports from Joss, from some of my guys there, that the big bag is like, I think 40 or 40 something thousand now. That's the big 50 kg bag. I don't know if it's 50 kg, but that bag. So it's a good thing.
So maybe now we can explain why our food,
Yes, why?
our food.
But let me go to the market first. I'm in the market this week.
Our food inflation is
Let me go first.
16%.
When I go, then I'll
Okay.
give you feedback.
All right, then, no problem. Thank you so much for coming,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Miller.
Faith.
It's always great to have you. Stay with us, stay with Rapid TV. The news is up next at 12. And yes, you can always catch this on YouTube once more. I'll be back on Thursday. Have a great morning.